Sarah Martinez rolled her wheelchair through the familiar doorway of Murphy's Diner, the brass bell above chiming softly in the afternoon air. Her weathered hands gripped the rims with practiced ease, navigating between tables with the same precision she once used to clear buildings in Kandahar. The faded navy insignia on her leather jacket caught the light as she settled into her usual corner booth, back to the wall, eyes naturally scanning the room. The waitress approached with a knowing smile. "Coffee, black," she said without being asked. Sarah nodded, her gaze still moving methodically across the diner's occupants. Old habits died hard. 3 construction workers at the counter, a young mother with her toddler near the window, an elderly couple sharing pie at table 6. All clear, all normal. Where in the world are you watching from and what time is it there? Stories like Sarah's happen everywhere, in every corner of our global community. The coffee arrived steaming, and Sarah wrapped her calloused fingers around the ceramic mug. This place had become her sanctuary, a slice of ordinary life where she could simply exist without questions or stares. Here, she was just another regular customer seeking the comfort of routine and the warmth of human connection. The bell chimed again as 3 men stumbled through the entrance, their voices already loud with afternoon drinking. Sarah's peripheral vision caught their movement immediately, her training automatically cataloging details. Mid-20s, approximately 6 feet each, leather jackets worn for intimidation rather than protection. The largest one had scarred knuckles. They chose a table directly in her line of sight, their conversation punctuated by crude laughter. The construction workers at the counter shifted uncomfortably, finishing their meals with sudden urgency. The young mother gathered her child closer, whispering reassurances. "Look at that one over there," the scarred man said, gesturing toward Sarah with his beer bottle. "Think she's waiting for someone to push her around." His companions snickered, their attention now fully focused on her corner booth. Sarah sipped her coffee steadily, her expression unchanged. But beneath the table, her hands had subtly shifted position on her chair's armrests. 23 years of military service had taught her to recognize predators, and these 3 radiated the particular brand of cowardice that sought easy targets. Have you ever witnessed someone surprise everyone with hidden talents? Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one others underestimate most. The waitress approached Sarah's table with obvious nervousness, her hands trembling slightly as she refilled the coffee cup that was still half full. The 3 men grew bolder with each passing minute, their voices carrying across the now quiet diner. The scarred leader stood first, swaying slightly as he pointed at Sarah's table. "What do we have here, boys? A broken soldier playing dress-up." His companions laughed as they noticed the military patches on Sarah's jacket. The Navy anchor insignia, the combat ribbons, the small trident pin that most civilians would never recognize. "Oh look, she thinks she's some kind of warrior," the second man sneered. "Wonder what happened to make her so useless." Sarah's jaw tightened imperceptibly, but her hands remained steady on her coffee mug. She had heard worse from enemies who actually posed a threat. These were just bullies emboldened by alcohol and what they perceived as an easy target. The elderly couple hurriedly paid their bill and left, the woman casting an apologetic glance toward Sarah. The construction workers followed suit, their discomfort palpable as they avoided eye contact. Within minutes, the diner had emptied except for Sarah, the 3 harassers, and the increasingly nervous staff. The leader took a step closer to her corner booth, his scarred knuckles now visible as he flexed his hands. "Time to teach this cripple some respect," he announced to his friends, his voice carrying the particular cruelty of someone who had never faced real consequences for his actions. The scarred man circled behind Sarah's wheelchair while his companions moved to block her exit routes. Amateur tactics, Sarah noted silently, but effective for intimidating civilians. The leader's hands gripped her chair's handles, rocking it slightly back and forth. "What's wrong, war hero, can't fight back now," he taunted, his breath reeking of cheap beer and cigarettes. His friends positioned themselves on either side of her table, leaning in with predatory grins. The one on her left had a butterfly knife in his jacket pocket, its outline visible through the leather. Sarah's peripheral vision tracked every movement while her hands remained casually positioned. The rocking motion of her chair provided valuable intelligence about her attacker's strength, balance, and positioning. He was right-handed, favored his left leg, and had never been in a real fight based on his stance. The waitress behind the counter clutched her phone with trembling hands, but made no move to call for help. The cook had disappeared entirely into the kitchen. Sarah was alone with three men who saw only a disabled woman they could victimize without consequence. "You know what I think," the leader continued, spinning her chair in a slow half circle so she faced his companions. "I think you never served at all. Just some faker collecting sympathy and free drinks." His grip tightened on the handles as his voice dropped to a menacing whisper. The scarred man's grip shifted from the wheelchair handles to Sarah's shoulder, his fingers digging into the fabric of her jacket with deliberate pressure. "Time for a reality check, sweetheart," he growled, his face inches from her ear. His companions moved closer, emboldened by their leader's escalation. Sarah turned her head slowly to meet his eyes, her voice carrying the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Remove your hand. Now." The words cut through the diner's tension like a blade, each syllable delivered with military precision. The three men burst into laughter, the sound harsh and mocking. "Or what, cripple?" the leader sneered, tightening his grip. "You gonna roll away real fast?" His friends howled with amusement, slapping the table as if they had just heard the funniest joke of their lives. What would you do if you were in this situation? Sometimes we face moments that define not just our day, but who we truly are inside. Sarah had faced such moments before, in places where hesitation meant death. Sarah's expression remained perfectly calm, but something shifted in her posture. Her shoulders squared despite the man's grip, her spine straightened, and her hands moved with subtle purpose. The scared little woman they thought they were tormenting had just disappeared, replaced by something far more dangerous than they could possibly comprehend. Sarah's left hand moved with lightning precision, her fingers finding the exact pressure point on the scarred man's wrist that would cause his grip to release involuntarily. The technique, perfected through countless hours of close-quarters combat training, sent searing pain shooting up his arm as his hand opened reflexively. Before he could react, Sarah's right elbow drove backward into his solar plexus with surgical accuracy. The blow expelled all the air from his lungs in a single whoosh, doubling him over as he staggered backward into a nearby table. The carefully balanced coffee cups and salt shakers crashed to the floor in a symphony of shattering ceramic. His two companions stood frozen, their brains struggling to process what had just happened. The helpless woman in the wheelchair had just disabled their leader with movements so fast they barely registered. The scarred man clutched his chest, gasping for breath while his eyes watered from the unexpected agony. Sarah rotated her wheelchair to face the remaining two men, her hands now openly positioned for combat. Her expression remained eerily calm, as if she had simply swatted away an annoying fly rather than neutralized a physical threat. This reminds us that everyone has hidden depths. The most dangerous warriors often hide in plain sight, their true capabilities masked by others' assumptions about what strength looks like. The diner's bell chimed with unusual force as 8 men in casual civilian clothes pushed through the entrance. Their movements carried the unmistakable coordination of a military unit, spreading naturally into tactical positions without conscious thought. Each wore the same weathered confidence that marked career warriors, their eyes instantly assessing the scene before them. The leader, a tall man with graying temples and forearms covered in anchor tattoos, stopped mid-stride when he spotted Sarah. His face broke into a grin of recognition and fierce pride. "Well, I'll be damned, Martinez," he called out, his voice carrying across the silent diner. Still handling business like a true professional. The remaining harassers looked confused as the 8 newcomers formed a loose semicircle around their confrontation. These weren't random customers seeking coffee and pie. They moved with the fluid precision of apex predators, their casual clothes unable to disguise the lethal competence underneath. Sarah's expression softened for the first time all afternoon, genuine warmth replacing the cold calculation of combat readiness. "Commander Jackson," she replied, her voice carrying years of shared history and mutual respect. Perfect timing as always. Have you ever witnessed a moment when the cavalry truly arrives? Sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places, reminding us that we're never as alone as we think we are in this world. Commander Jackson's team moved with silent efficiency, positioning themselves at strategic points throughout the diner. 2 men flanked the entrance, blocking any escape route. 3 others spread along the counter, their backs to the wall and eyes locked on the remaining harassers. The final 2 positioned themselves near the kitchen, ensuring complete coverage of the space. The scarred leader finally caught his breath, straightening up with murder in his eyes. He lunged toward Sarah again, apparently too stupid or too proud to recognize the danger he now faced. But Jackson raised a single hand, stopping his team from intervening. "Let her finish what she started, boys," he said quietly. "Martinez earned the right to handle her own business." Sarah's teammates watched with professional appreciation as she demonstrated why she had been selected for the most classified operations. Her wheelchair became an extension of her body, pivoting and maneuvering with deadly grace. The second harasser made the mistake of reaching for his butterfly knife, only to find his wrist caught in Sarah's iron grip. The remaining civilians in the diner witnessed something extraordinary, 8 elite warriors showing absolute confidence in their teammates' abilities. They didn't rush to rescue her because they knew she didn't need rescuing. They were simply there to ensure no one interfered with justice being served by one of the most dangerous women alive. Sarah twisted the second harasser's wrist with mechanical precision, forcing him to drop the butterfly knife before it fully cleared his pocket. The blade clattered harmlessly across the linoleum floor as she applied a joint lock that sent him crashing to his knees beside his still gasping leader. The third man finally grasped the magnitude of his situation. 9 pairs of eyes watched him with the cold assessment of professional killers. These weren't ordinary citizens he could intimidate with size and aggression. The casual way they carried themselves, the coordinated positioning, the absolute calm in their faces, all screamed military elite. "You boys picked the wrong woman to mess with today," Commander Jackson said conversationally, his tone suggesting he was discussing the weather rather than a tactical situation. "Sarah Martinez completed more classified missions than your tiny brains could comprehend. She saved more lives than you 3 combined will ever be worth." The atmosphere in the diner had transformed completely. What began as 3 bullies terrorizing a disabled woman had become a masterclass in why you never underestimate a warrior. Sarah sat calmly in her wheelchair, completely in control, while her former teammates formed an impenetrable wall of professional menace around the confrontation. The scarred leader looked up from the floor, finally understanding that he was about to face consequences unlike anything his sheltered life had prepared him for. Commander Jackson pulled out his phone, scrolling through official photographs with deliberate slowness. "Gentlemen, meet Petty Officer First Class Sarah Martinez," he announced, holding the screen toward the 3 cowering men. 2 silver stars, 3 bronze stars with valor, Purple Heart, and a classification level that would make your head spin. The images showed Sarah in full combat gear, leading rescue operations in hostile territory. Her face was younger but carried the same steely determination now evident in the diner. Multiple photos depicted her carrying wounded teammates to safety, providing sniper overwatch for evacuations, and standing beside grateful civilians she had protected from enemy forces. She spent 14 months behind enemy lines gathering intelligence that saved thousands of American lives, Jackson continued, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Lost the use of her legs pulling 3 Marines from a burning vehicle while under direct fire. The enemy never managed to break her, but you 3 thought you could. The waitress emerged from behind the counter, her phone already recording. Other patrons began returning, drawn by curiosity and the obvious shift in power dynamics. Word spread quickly through the small community that something extraordinary was happening at Murphy's Diner. Sometimes we encounter hidden heroes walking among us every day. Recognition comes in unexpected moments, revealing the incredible sacrifices made by those we too often overlook or underestimate in our daily lives. Police sirens wailed in the distance as the waitress finished providing her statement to the 911 dispatcher. The three harassers remained on the floor, their earlier bravado replaced by the dawning realization of legal consequences. Assault on a disabled veteran, in front of 8 military witnesses, with video evidence, would not end well for them. The construction workers who had fled earlier returned with shame written across their faces. "Ma'am," the foreman said quietly to Sarah, "we should have stepped in. We had no idea who you were, but that's no excuse. We failed you today, and we're sorry." Other community members began arriving as word spread through the small town. The elderly couple from earlier brought flowers. The young mother returned with her child, who solemnly saluted Sarah with his tiny hand. The diner owner emerged from the kitchen, tears streaming down her face as she declared Sarah's meals would be free for life. Commander Jackson coordinated with the arriving officers, providing military identification and witness statements. The three attackers would face federal charges for targeting a disabled veteran, their actions recorded and documented by multiple sources. Stories like this remind us that every community has hidden heroes whose sacrifices we may never fully understand. Share this reminder that respect and recognition should never wait for dramatic revelations to occur. As the police led the three attackers away in handcuffs, Commander Jackson's team gathered around Sarah's table like the reunion it had unexpectedly become. 8 battle-hardened warriors shared stories of missions where their teammates' courage had meant the difference between life and death. "Remember Fallujah when Martinez held that rooftop alone for 6 hours," one SEAL recounted. 17 confirmed kills while we extracted those civilians. Or Syria, when she carried Peterson 2 miles through enemy territory with a dislocated shoulder. Sarah smiled genuinely for the first time all day, surrounded by the men who understood that warriors are defined by spirit rather than physical form. Her wheelchair had never made her less dangerous, only more creative in applying the lethal skills burned into her soul through years of elite training. The diner transformed into an impromptu celebration as the community learned the true identity of their quiet regular customer. Children approached shyly for autographs. Veterans came to pay respects. Local news crews arrived to document the story of hidden heroism revealed. Murphy's Diner would never be the same. Sarah's corner booth became a place of honor, marked with a small plaque recognizing her service. The community had learned that strength comes in many forms, and their most dangerous protector had been sitting quietly among them all along. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that heroes walk among us every day, often unrecognized until moments like these reveal their true nature.